Hey everybody, this is a bit off from my normal videos, but I decided to do sort of a fun one. I'm going over who's winning the culture war, Black Mask or Comicsgate. I got this idea from one of Perch's videos, that's Comics By Perch, a YouTuber, who had one of his audience members ask that question, who's winning the culture war, if you based it just on sales and just those two groups, Black Mask and Comicsgate. And as you'll see as I get further, that's kind of hard to answer, but I attempted to. So if that sounds interesting, I'm just going to jump right into it. If you are unaware, I don't know why you'd be watching this video, but Black Mass Studios is a comic book publisher that's sort of been labeled as a woke publisher. I think what they're meaning by woke is simply left-leaning or anti-capitalist or primarily heavily focused on progressive ideologies which include highlighting race, sex, gender, or anti-authoritarian agendas, or even sometimes authoritarian agendas depending on whose side is talking about it. But despite this motivation, they're painted by their critics as aggressive, untalented, or political tools for oppressive institutions or the elites or establishment or whatever. Comicsgate, on the other hand, is like the opposite end. So they're a movement or a collective of comic book creators and fans who they specifically oppose woke ideologies and seek to create or promote comic books that are based on more like traditional archetypes or mainly just focus on talent or creativity as opposed to political messages or specifically ideologies highlighting diversity or gender over the story. But because of this, they're painted as racist or homophobic or simply just internet bullies, at least in the entertainment world. So I'm not going to give my opinion on like these political ideologies or any of these sides. I just wanted to find out who's selling more comic books and answer the question just for fun. So I'm going to start with Black Mask. First of all, I want to say I haven't read all the books I'm talking about. I have read a little bit of both sides, and I don't actually consider Black Mask totally woke. Specifically, some are for sure, but for what I'm going over here today, I'm just going to pretend as if everything Black Mask has released, all of it is the woke agenda. Even though I don't think that's true. I mean, look at Pat Shan's books. Would you call the barista book he has woke? I don't think so. But anyway, so if you go by sales and you're looking at Comic-Con, it's really hard to get recent data. And if I just took like the first quarter of 2022, you would think Black Mask is just getting massacred. Their numbers are super slim. They only released like a handful of series. I didn't see any number ones released at that time. And when I added them all together for that whole quarter, they only sold about 12,000 units across all like 4 series that were in the run at that time. So even if I projected that out for the whole year, you're only looking at like 50,000 units, which is so low to me, it makes me skeptical of the data. There must be something missing, or like there was a paper shortage at that time or something that affected the sales. So for those interested in like those numbers, I don't think those are good to go by. So what I decided to do is sort of going by, if you just look at the data from the past, like let's say the past 5 to 8 years, the biggest like 5 series, they're the top selling books that Black Mask released, and then added up those together as far as sales, and then sort of rounded roughly up, and then projected out what would those numbers be. So I came up with Rogue State sold launched at 48,000. Kim and Kim launched at 20,000. 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank launched at 31,000. Colexit launched at 25,000. White, which was a sequel to Black, launched at 40,000. And maybe you could even argue that Black probably launched around the same amount. Tomorrow's Ashes launched at over 40,000. So I added all those up right there, and that's about 200,000 units. And if you sell those at $4 a pop, that's about $816,000 in revenue. And if you round up, let's just say that's $1 million. And if you say if those were all the number ones and the rest of those series were roughly like, could just like maybe double that. Let's say if the number ones launched at 40,000, maybe we could argue that 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 added up to another 40,000 or more. So I'm just going to round up and say within that time period, Black Mask Prize sold maybe $2 to $4 million worth of in revenue over the past couple of years. Obviously, rough numbers here, but I think you can get an idea. Now, if you just go to Comicsgate and we sort of do the same thing, I just pulled basically the two most prominent creators I think that are in that space. One is named Ethan Van Sciver, and the other one is named Eric July. Ethan, I think, was a former Big Two artist and writer, I think. And Eric July is a YouTuber that also has recently released a series. But they both are very prominent figures in the Comicsgate space. Even though I'm not sure Eric July considers himself a comic skater, I think you could still put him in this crowd. So if you just go on those two, Ethan has a series called Cyberfrog, and that has raised millions on Indiegogo. At least 2 million. I didn't even go all the way back because he has other stuff too, and he releases stuff with other Comicsgate creators as well that also raise millions. And Eric's series called ESOM raised almost $4 million alone for issue 1. So if you just add those two creators in the past few years, you're already looking at over $6 million in revenue just in the past few years. So I think on that merit alone, you could argue based on sales, or at least revenue, maybe not individual number sales, the Comicsgate is winning. You could probably argue that on actual book sales, like books in hands or at least in comic shops, Black Mask is probably winning. So my conclusion is simply this. Like, if you're just going to split the culture war into simply Comicsgate and Black Mask, who wins as far as sales, I think you're going to say Black Mask probably in numbers, Comicsgate in money or in revenue. However, if you redid the research and sort of added in just all the woke books that were released by Marvel and DC and lumped those in with Black Mask, because there's a lot of people, I think the most aggravated target or focus is actually more on Marvel DC, and I wouldn't consider Black Mask the biggest thing that people are hating on as far as like the woke world. I think it's mainly Marvel and DC that people are concerned about. And if you went to just those books, the ones that people would consider as ruining comics, and went by those sales, and then tried to lump in all the Comicsgate creators together, that'd be a more fair fight. And I don't really think it's worth doing that much research on this topic, but it is interesting, I think, just for the fun of it. If you guys actually want to know that, I guess if I got enough people interested, I could do it. I guess just let me know, comment, like, or whatever, and yeah, that's it. Thanks, everybody. Don't hate me. I'll catch you later. See ya.